So welcome friends, how are you all today? We are gonna see what if Naruto acts like Serafall L Yasaka movie. Where? Where am I? Blue eyes scanned the room with interest and curiosity. Come on honey, push. He's almost out. Blue eyes quickly followed to where the voices came from. A man with red hair kneeling beside the bed that a woman with brown hair laid. The woman was huffing as the man held her hand. A man in a white coat stood in between the woman's spread legs. Push Lady Venelana. I can see the little one's head now, the man in the coat said. Dear, push. The red-haired man spoke. Zeoticus, Venelana breathed out hard. I love you, but if you open your mouth again, I'll make sure you never impregnate me or another woman again. Understood? She said with a look that showed she would follow up on that promise. Zeoticus shut his mouth and nodded his head. Wah, came a cry of a baby. It's another boy. The doctor exclaimed as he held the newborn up and wiped him down. The blue eyes quickly looked at the doctor and newborn baby. Who is that? And why is he so loud? Venelana laid there as she caught her breath. Zeoticus, bring me my boys, I want to see them. Zeoticus nodded as he went to the boy who was laying off to the side while the doctor handed the fresh newborn to Venelana. Blue eyes watched as the man with red hair walked over to the owner of the eyes. Why is he walking over to me? He's picking me up, honey, Zeoticus said as he raised the baby in his arms. You won't believe this, but this one has my father's crystal blue eyes, he happily exclaimed. Bring him here, Zeoticus, I want him to meet his brother, she said. Brother? Zeoticus held the baby close as he sat on a chair next to the bed his wife was on. This is your little brother, young one. Venelana spoke to the baby in Zeoticus' arms. It is your job to protect your brother and make sure he doesn't get into any trouble. Brother? Protect? Blue eyes looked at the baby in Venelana's arms. A small baby with a tuft of red hair similar to the man who was holding him. The baby opened its eyes to reveal blue-green eyes, different than the blue eyes looking down at him. Can we have names of your newborns, Lord and Lady Gremory? The doctor said as he held a clipboard and pen. Zeoticus turned to his wife. What do you want to name them, dear? He asked his wife. Venelana looked down at the baby she was holding. Searsex, this one shall be named Searsex Gremory, she said fondly. A wonderful name, her husband chimed out. He then looked at the baby held in his own arms, the baby's blue eyes gazing at him curiously as if studying him. You are an odd one, you know that. Odd? Zeoticus couldn't help but chuckle as the baby raised an eyebrow as if he was confused at what the man said. You haven't made a peep, since you were brought in this world, not a single cry or noise came from you, Zeoticus said as he stuck his index finger out and touched the baby's stomach and tickled him. Hee. The baby's blue eyes closed as he giggled at being tickled. So you do make noise, Zeoticus exclaimed as he heard the baby giggle. An enigma, no doubt. But now what about a name? He hummed. The baby's eyes opened again and Zeoticus couldn't help but be sucked in by those cerulean eyes. My father always said his eyes seemed to draw people in, and the fact that he was unpredictable on the battlefield causing mass destruction everywhere he went, Zeoticus told the young baby. Get on with it, dear. Venelana told her husband, it's getting late and I would like to rest, he nodded. There is only one name that will fit you since you seem to look so much like my father, he said. Naruto. He yelled in pride. Naruto? Really, a ramen topping? Venelana said, disappointed in his name. Of course not, dear. It means, maelstrom. It means a powerful, violent whirlpool that draws in things around it. I believe he will be a fine leader that will have many people following his every word in the future. Zeoticus explained. Naruto? Venelana said with a thoughtful expression. A smile came to her face. I like it, Naruto. Blue eyes watched them converse. My name is Naruto. Years later, two bundles of red hair could be seen running down a long hallway, both looking around to be 8 years old. The first one had red hair that had two small bangs hanging in the middle of his forehead. He had blue-green eyes, almost teal. He had a smile on his face as he ran away from the other child chasing him. The second child shared the same crimson-colored locks as the one he was chasing, but that is where their similarities stopped. This child's hair had two bangs, but they framed the side of his face, stopping just past his forehead, and eyes met while the rest of it went straight up towards the sky. He also had deep blue eyes that were different than the blue-green eyes of the other child. He also stood about an inch or two taller than the child running away. These two children were twins, Searsex and Naruto Gremory. The two children were laughing the entire time as they chased one another through the house. The maids and butlers were smiling as they saw the two near inseparable brothers play around as they usually did. You can't catch me, Naruto. Serafall yelled as he turned back to see Naruto a little ways behind him. "Watch me!" Naruto yelled out as they rounded a corner. Naruto smiled at his brother. His brother always looked up to him and wanted to surpass him. He also wanted everything Naruto had. He knew Naruto was better than he was in natural skill and intelligence. Naruto was faster and more adept in magic. The only reason Naruto hadn't caught Serafall yet was because he wanted him to have fun. Naruto was very protective of his brother. There weren't many things or instances to protect him from. The only times he became protective was when the more greedy houses wanted to force a marriage contract to Serafall or him in order to climb up the social ladder. Naruto went through multiple stops to prevent his parents or the others to agree. Most of time Naruto asked to have half of their funds and all their records of the spells they owned. That seemed to stop them. His parents didn't see anything wrong since they saw it as his political skills being in play. It was better than simply saying no and making an enemy. Sure, they may see Naruto as greedy, but they were creatures of sin after all. "Serafall!" Naruto shouted out as he saw his brother about to run into a cabinet that held their mother's antiques. It was too late, however. By the time Serafall turned back to look in front of him, he only had time to put his hands in front of his face to prevent it from being cut by the shattered glass. Time seemed to slow down as Naruto watched his mother's collection come crashing down. Plates, mugs, figurines. They all landed and broke as they hit the ground. Time seemed to stop for the twin redheads. Naruto looked around and saw that a few maids were standing there with their mouths agape. They knew how much the antiques meant to his mother. Before he could form a response, they heard a shout. What was that? Naruto turned around to see his mother turn the corner and see the mess of crashed porcelain and glass. He saw her turn from shock to anger and worry. Angered that her precious collection was ruined and worry for her two sons' well-being. What happened? She asked as she looked between her sons and the maids that were there. Naruto looked at Serafall and saw how scared he was. Their mother was always kind and gentle, but there were the rare occasions where their mother could be the devil, literally. Before Serafall or the maids could speak up, Naruto stepped forward. "It was me, mother, I broke your antiques." Venolana looked at Naruto with a quirked eyebrow and the maids gasped quietly and whispered amongst themselves. "And how did you break it?" "Serafall and me were playing tag. He was chasing me and I wasn't watching where I was going and ran into the cabinet," Naruto told his mother. She studied his face and then Serafall. She spoke, "Is this true, Serafall?" Serafall shrinked under his mother's gaze. He looked between her and Naruto looking for something to say. He saw Naruto give an almost unnoticeable nod. "Why yes, it's true what Naruto said," Serafall told her. She stood straight up and closed her eyes. She let a sigh escape her lips. "Okay then," she looked to Naruto. "Naruto, clean up this mess. We have help, but they are not here to clean every mess you make. This will also hopefully show you to be careful next time." She let a small smile grace her lips. "I don't know what I would do if something happened to you too." She rubbed both of their heads as they smiled up at her. "Serafall, let's go. More training," Venolana said as she grabbed Serafall and led him towards the backyard where they did their training. Serafall looked back at Naruto and mouthed a thank you and sorry. Naruto just gave him a thumbs up. When they were out of sight, he let a sad smile grace his lips. Ever since Serafall showed he could use the power of destruction, that has been his parents' focus. They spent more time training with Serafall so he could use it correctly and not end up harming anyone that wasn't an enemy. Naruto was happy and disheartened, happy that his brother had something that he could be proud of and call his own, as Naruto had yet to show any use of the power of destruction, but he was sad that his parents ignored him at times to train Serafall alone and even praised him when family friends came over. He shook his head from those depressing thoughts. He just had to work harder. He would show that you didn't need some unfair power-up. He would show them how strong he could become with hard work and determination. He sighed, "But first, I have to clean this up." He went to one of the closets and grabbed a broom and tray to pick up the broken porcelain. As he started cleaning, he saw some maids bend down and help clean. "What are you guys doing?" "I am supposed to clean up by myself," Naruto told them. One of the maids, the head maid in fact, stood up and walked over to Naruto. "We know lore, Naruto," she corrected herself with a giggle as Naruto gave her a small glare at almost calling him Lord. "You have always been extra kind to us and always cover up when me or the others accidentally break something. You always say you did it to spare us from getting in trouble or fired. This is the least we can do for you." Naruto saw her, and the other maids that stood up by now, bowed towards him. "Why yeah, well, I don't want you to lose your jobs. Most of you have families of your own and need this job." Naruto blushed as he rubbed the back of his head. "Thank you for helping." They nodded as they got back to helping him clean up the mess. Naruto squatted down and began cleaning too as he thought about the help they had around the house. Sure, he was kind to the maids and butlers but didn't think his kindness would have this type of effect. He looked out the window in the backyard just in time to see Searsex fail at a basic spell and explode. Naruto shook his head. His brother struggled with spells that weren't his power of destruction. Naruto made a promise that day to himself: if he never unlocked the power of destruction, then he would be strong enough to match his brother's power of destruction and be trained with him by their parents. Little did Naruto know, things would not be so fortunate him. 5 years later, Naruto could be seen sitting off to the side of their backyard. He had grown in the 5 years. He stood at a height of 5 foot 2 inches, his hair had grown a bit longer, the 2 bangs that framed his face now reached down to his cheeks. His eyes remained their crystal blue color. The baby fat was virtually all but gone, but you could still see a bit in his cheeks. He had a toned body for a 13-year-old, while not buff. You could see muscle and definition on his arms, showing he worked out a great deal. He wore a white shirt with the Gremory clan symbol taking a large portion of the back of his shirt. He wore black shorts with a burnt orange trim on them. He had no idea why, but he just felt that he needed orange in his clothes. He finished it off with black and white shoes. Naruto wasn't the only person off to the side though. Sat next to him was the serious and beautiful Serafall L. She was very mature for her age, considering she was the same age as Naruto. She had long black hair that cascaded down her back. Her blue eyes looked intently at what they were here for. She wore a white dress shirt and a black skirt that went to her knees. She wore black flats to finish off her ensemble. She was about 4 foot 8 inches, just to the shoulder of Naruto. She was without a doubt Naruto's best friend. They met when they were 10 when their parents decided to take them when they visited each other's home. Serafall seemed shy and quiet when they first met, but after some time, Naruto realized that she was just like him. Loud and adventurous, she only kept up the shy girl act when around other important houses to further any dealings that her parents were discussing. They wouldn't get any deals if she was her loud and rambunctious self. After spending so much time with her, he learned she was adept in ice magic, something that only few were to achieve considering the Lucifer clan was the only clan to have full control of ice magic. Sitting with the two of them were Ajuka Astaroth and Falbium Glacia Labelas. Ajuka had green hair that was slicked back. He stood a bit shorter than Naruto by about 3 inches. Ajuka was a brainiac. He was able to figure out any problem that was presented to him and find a solution in a matter of moments. He had even begin inventing. He wouldn't say much, but he said he was working on something big that would change the devil world forever. Next to him was Falbium. He had really thin hair, as if it was falling out. There wasn't much about him to note besides he was a natural in battle strategies. He had never lost a game of chess to anyone. Now, what were all these people doing here in his backyard? Well, his parents wanted to show off the skills Searsex had with his power of destruction. So, they called all their friends and other prominent houses to see. So, stood a ways away from the children were the parents of those sitting down. The Cetri, Astaroth, and Glacia Labelas were standing with Naruto's parents. There were a few people there that didn't have children or that weren't there at least. First, were his mother's family, the head of the Biel house, Zekrom Biel. Naruto didn't like him. He had this uneasy feeling around Zekrom. Next were the Phoenix family, both Lord and Lardy Phoenix, Michael and Layla Phoenix respectively, were standing amongst the rest of the adults. He knew them closely and even treated them as an aunt and uncle considering he had a close friendship with their son, Ruval Phoenix, who wasn't present at the moment. The last pair that his eyes fell on made him smile. It was his grandparents, Minato and Kushina Gremory. Through the years that his parents were focusing on Searsex, Naruto found solace in his grandparents. They were kind and always made him smile. They even taught Naruto some magic spells that kids weren't ready for. He shared his grandfather's crystal blue eyes and hairstyle while his mother had teal-colored eyes and long flowing red hair. While his friends were strategists, intelligent, or prodigies, he had something that they didn't. He had hard work. He worked hard every day and was able to use high-level spells that would leave most adults out of breath. He had increased his reserves so much that he was astonished when his grandmother had said he had more magic than she did at her age. He was shocked because she was considered to have the highest magical reserves in all of the underworld besides Lucifer himself. She was also the last of her kind. Her family decided to live on the overworld, but that was their downfall as fallen angels raided the land they inhabited and laid waste to whoever lived there, be they devil or human. She was saved because of his grandfather, Minato. He was there visiting since they were in a relationship at the time, and he teleported them to safety when they could no longer hold off the Legion of Fallen. He was shook from his thoughts when a teleportation symbol appeared in front of their parents. He recognized the symbol, as did everyone else, and he widened his eyes. From the circle stepped out the most powerful devil in the underworld. Lucifer himself, and behind him was his beautiful wife Lilith. The two most powerful people in all of the underworld and said to be able to match the biblical god in a fight. Lord Lucifer. What brings you and your lovely wife here? Zeoticus stepped forward and bowed. Lucifer just waved him off. I came to hear that a powerful young devil was going to be presenting today and I was wondering where my invitation was. He said with a smirk shared by his wife, though hers held an air of sexiness sultry to it. I am sorry, Lord Lucifer. I did not believe you would be bothered to attend something so trivial, Zeoticus said while sweating a bit. Zeoticus was no pushover, he was a strong man and skilled fighter, but Lucifer was man who could erase someone with just a wave of the finger. No sane person would dare anger or oppose Lucifer, not even Zekrom. Lucifer just turned to his wife. I don't recall saying I was bothered, did I, dear? Lilith smirked. No, I believe you asked where your invitation was at, she responded. Yes, I believe I did say that. So, Zeoticus, where is my invitation at? Lucifer gave him a hard stare that made the others watching sweat. Zeoticus could not come up with an answer. He fumbled words and responses, but none of them would allow him to live if he said any of the ones he came up with. Almost in an instant, the cold feeling went away as Lucifer straightened up and snapped his fingers. Ah, it must have got lost in the mail then. Right? He smiled at the way Zeoticus' face contorted into confusion. But we don't have my Lucifer covered Zeoticus' mouth. It got lost in the mail, didn't it? Lucifer said, nodding his head. Zeoticus caught on and nodded his head. Good, now, are we just gonna stand around or are we gonna watch a prodigy at work? Lucifer and Lilith walked to the rest of the adults that seemed to be more relaxed now that the situation was diffused. Naruto watched with curiosity before he turned to Serafall. Psst, Serafall, Naruto whispered to her. Serafall looked at him from the corner of her eye. What do you want, Naruto? She was still a little shaken up at Lucifer showing up unexpectedly. Let's leave and go have fun. This is gonna be boring. Serafall looked at him as if he grew a second head. Are you crazy? She yelled. Lucifer and Lilith are here. We can't ignore this. They might take it as an insult. Little did the two know that 3 pairs of eyes were watching them. Ah, come on. They won't notice. Let's go. I hate these things, Naruto insisted. Serafall squirmed where she was sitting. She looked to her right and saw Ajuka messing with some contraption and Falbium asleep. She sighed. If these 2 idiots could get away with this, then I guess we can leave, she thought. Fine. But make it quick before anyone notices, she whispered. Naruto nodded and scooted closer to her so he could wrap his arm around her waist. Hazel and light blue eyes looked on with interest while crystal blue ones narrowed. Damn it, Naruto. You're gonna get yourself killed if Lucifer notices, Minato thought as he knew what Naruto was gonna do. Within a few seconds, Naruto and Serafall disappeared with a crimson flash. Before Minato could move to sneak away and find them, he saw Lucifer move. He saw him whisper something in Lilith's ear and saw as she smirked before Lucifer walked off towards the woods that was in the Gremory's backyard unnoticed by the others. That boy, Minato jumped in shock. He turned to see Lilith standing next to him. Your grandson, Naruto, I believe, has intrigued us a great deal. Whether that be good or bad, I guess you'll have to find out when my husband returns. Minato looked off to the forest and gulped. He could do nothing but hope Naruto and Serafall would be okay. In the forest, stop being a stick in the mud, Sarah. Nothing bad is gonna happen, Naruto told Serafall as he looked down at her on the ground as he was seated on a branch. Serafall sent him a small glare. It's Lucifer, Naruto. The strongest devil to ever exist. He had to have noticed we left. Peeved. He may be the strongest devil, but he is like 1,000 years old. Doubt an old man could sense my technique since no one else has been able to notice it yet. Serafall looked shocked at Naruto before she went to speak and berate him if it wasn't for a chuckle coming from behind them. Naruto instantly jumped down from his spot in front of Serafall and took a protective stance, ready to teleport them out of there if they needed. True, I am old, but I can still beat down those who dare face me. Their eyes widened as Lucifer walked out and revealed himself to the two. Though, you were correct and I didn't sense you use a teleportation spell. I wonder, how did you do it? Naruto shrank under his gaze. Here was the strongest devil in existence. Any wrong move and Naruto would disappear from all of existence. I am waiting, Lucifer said, a bit annoyed. If you're worried about me erasing you from existence, keep me waiting and I will do it. Naruto composed himself and looked him in the eye. I researched the technique and amount of magic used to use teleportation magic. After learning that, I manifested the magic within myself and focus on a spot that I can sense or have been before teleporting to it, he explained. I have so much magic that I don't have to use the Gremory crest as a stabilizer, so my magic is undetected when I teleport. It is also instantaneous, unlike the standard teleportation devils use. Naruto and Serafall were sweating as Lucifer seemed to be thinking over what Naruto said. Tell me, are you the only one to use this type of teleportation? Naruto nodded. Would anyone be able to learn this type of teleportation? Naruto seemed to think about his answer for a while. Could anyone learn this technique? Yes, others can learn this technique. Lucifer frowned at that, unnoticed by the two teens. Though, they would have to have an advanced understanding of magic flow and condensing the magic needed inside the body instead of their family crest. They would also need advanced control and massive reserves in order to overcome not having their crest to make the magic flow correctly. Lucifer grinned. So, it would be highly difficult and almost impossible unless they had reserves and an advanced understanding like you, correct? Naruto nodded. Lucifer kept his smile. This boy is a genius. He may be able to pass me if he continues to work hard, he thought. Tell me, do you have the power of destruction like your brother? Naruto's face fell when he heard that. Another person to ignore him like his parents had started in favor for his brother. No, I do not have the power of destruction. Serafall put her hand on his back to comfort Naruto. He then looked up in Lucifer's hazel eyes with a look of wanting to be acknowledged. But I worked hard to be as strong as I am. I can use all types of magic. I am not useless. Naruto almost pleaded. Lucifer just looked at this kid. No, this young man before him. He could see the definition and calluses that Naruto had. He was a hard worker, and if his variation of the teleportation spell was any indication, a genius as well. Lucifer compared Naruto to his brother, Serafall, and saw two different people. One was a child that was pampered for his gift, while this one was neglected to some extent because of his lack of said gift. Serafall had no muscle or any type of blemishes on his skin to show he was a hard worker. Serafall was very much like his own son, Rizavam, always got handed things. Never did he have to work or struggle to obtain what he wanted. It was always obtained on a silver platter for him. In part, it was his own fault his son was like this. He may have told him to take pride in being a devil and to carry the name Lucifer, but now his son just expected to be given what he wanted and never lifted a finger. It was then that Lucifer made his decision. Naruto, you look to be respected and recognized, correct? Lucifer asked the young redhead. Naruto nodded while Serafall narrowed her eyes. She didn't know what Lucifer was planning, but she would not let him take advantage of her friend and secret not-so-secret crush. I think I have a way for you to obtain that. Naruto widened his eyes. How? Naruto asked. Well, it'd be hard for them not to notice my apprentice, right? Lucifer had a tone of smugness as he saw Naruto's mouth gape like a fish. Do you mean it? I am gonna be your apprentice? Lucifer crossed his arms and turned to start walking away. Of course, though, it won't be easy. I plan to put you through hell, literally. Lucifer started to walk off. Hurry up, my apprentice, we have to go watch that brother of yours. With that, Lucifer started his walk back to where the rest of the devils were, leaving the two teens to trail behind him. Naruto looked over to Serafall. Are you sure about this, being his apprentice? Don't worry, Sarah. It'll be fine. This is me we're talking about. After all, Serafall's sweat dropped. That's what I am worried about. At his glance she decided to explain. You spent a month in bed because you broke your leg working on your teleportation, and that was with some of the best healing magic users working on your leg. Naruto rubbed the back of his head and gave a sheepish grin. I worry, Naruto. You're my only real friend. I don't want to. She froze as Naruto grabbed her hands. Serafall blushed as she looked to see Naruto stare at her with loving and determined eyes. I promise you, Serafall, I won't get hurt. What kind of friend would I be if I hurt my best friend? Serafall could feel her heart beat faster than she ever felt before, as if it was gonna burst from her chest, but she got deflated when he called them friends. Yeah, she thought, friends. Fine. Promise me you won't overwork yourself. I don't want to tend to your wounds again like last time, she told him. Naruto looked at her and gave a goofy grin. I promise. Neither of them knew Lucifer heard everything they were saying. Is this how I was? Lilith must have been pulling her hair out when we were younger. He chuckled as they continued walking out of the forest. Back with the demonstration, the people gathered were congratulating Serafall and his power over his abilities after his use of his power of destruction. Some more than others, while others were worried about where Lucifer and Naruto had gone off to. Their questions were answered as they saw them, along with Serafall, emerge from the forest of trees. Minato released a sigh of relief that his grandson was okay. Lord Lucifer, Where have you been? Zeoticus was the first to speak. Lucifer looked around the yard at all the faces of those present. He suppressed a grin at the knowing smirk his wife gave him. I was off wondering where these two had wandered off to, he said, motioning to the young teens behind him, before their parents cold scold them. Lucifer continued speaking. You have some lovely children, Gremory and Cetri. In fact, I intend to make your son my apprentice. They all were astounded at that. The Lucifer was going to take a Gremory to be his apprentice. It was unheard of considering he didn't even claim Rizavam to be his student. We are honored that you have chosen Sirzex to be your apprentice. Lucifer held his hand up, stopping Zeoticus. I was not talking about Sirzex, I was speaking of Naruto over here. All eyes fell to Naruto with wide eyes. He has caught my interest. He does not possess any special gifts or powers, but he is a man of hard work. I can see he will do great things, so I will be taking him on as my apprentice. Lucifer put his hand on Naruto's shoulder. He will be an excellent apprentice. Congratulations, Naruto. Kushina was the first one to break the silence. Minato, our grandson is gonna be the apprentice of Lucifer. Isn't that great? Nothing but excitement escaped her. It is, dear. Way to go, Naruto. Minato joined his wife, and soon after, everyone there also congratulated the young devil, much to his embarrassment. Everyone except a certain Bael. As everyone said their piece, they all headed back to the house to discuss this further. As Venelana and Zeoticus went to follow, someone stopped them. Venelana, Zeoticus, stay. They turned around to see it was Zekrom, so they waited until the rest of the group entered the house before they made their way over to Zekrom. We have important matters to regarding this unsavory situation, Zekrom said with distaste. After all, how will we rule the underworld if our pawn isn't taken in by Lucifer? You planned Lucifer being here? Zeoticus asked, bewildered. Zekrom stroked his chin in thought. Of course I did. I made sure to spread word about Sirzek's demonstration to all the devils who can't keep their lips sealed. It was only a matter of them round Lucifer or one of his lackeys. Zekrom turned to face them. Though, your son has gone and ruined that with becoming Lucifer's apprentice. It seems that we will have to go with Plan B. Plan B? Venelana questioned. Zekrom nodded. Yes, we will have to overthrow Lucifer, a civil war. This earned wary looks from his audience of two, but with the threat of war between the three factions, if we were to do that now, we would surely be destroyed. Civil war? Zeoticus whispered harshly. Are you serious? How will we even go about that? No one would dare oppose Lucifer, not even yourself. Zekrom waved them off. Didn't you guys want more power than you have? Did you not agree to join me and jump at the chance of holding the underworld in the palm of your hand? They nodded. Then trust me in what I tell you. He paused and turned around. And what I want you to do is to stop training Naruto. Cut him completely off, don't acknowledge his power or success. He stopped them as they were about to protest. We can't have Naruto to be that close to Lucifer. Naruto is not as gullible and is far too intelligent to have us manipulate him like Sirzex is. If you ignore Naruto, he will stumble and fall before Lucifer's training. Lucifer will come to realize that Naruto is inferior to Sirzex and will take him while dropping Naruto. I would also try to get him to turn his friends away, but that Cetri girl is in love with him even if he doesn't realize it. Hey, are you sure this will work? Zekrom turned to the beautiful brunette. Do you have so little faith in you, old man? Zekrom told his daughter. She shook her head. Good, now let's head inside. They may get suspicious as to why we are out here for so long. The trio walked back to the house to join the rest of the group that was celebrating inside. The plan to take over Hell was now set and Zekrom couldn't wait to have it in his hands. Thanks for watching.